How does a woman go from living a glamorous life with suitors showering her with gifts to being accused of orchestrating a murder? This is the story of Mechele Linehan, a former exotic dancer who was once convicted of plotting the murder of her fiancé, Kent Leppink, only to have the conviction overturned. Was she truly involved in a deadly scheme, or was she just an innocent woman caught in a tragic story? Let's deep dive into this perplexing case. Hello everyone, my name is Aurora. Welcome to my basement where everything is work in progress, just like me. Thank you very much for being here. You are the ones encouraging me to continue. Now let's go into our case. What makes this case so fascinating isn't just the crime itself, but the mind behind it. How an intelligent and charming woman went from small town beauty queen to a convicted femme fatale. Stick around as we unravel the psychology, the deception, and the shocking twists that make this case unforgettable. Michelle Hughes was born in Louisiana on 16th of October 1974. She grew up in a conservative household. She moved to Alaska in the mid-1990s where she began working as an exotic dancer at the notorious Foxes in Anchorage. There she quickly gained attention for her charm and intelligence, attracting several wealthy admirers. Those who knew Michelle back then remembered the way she lived draped in luxury, always adorned with sparkling jewelry and the softest furs, gifts from the men who adored her. Witnesses recalled how money seemed to come flawlessly, effortlessly into her life, with different suitors showering her with cash, lavish presents, and promises of a future together. Some saw her as a charming, magnetic woman who simply attracted wealth, while others whispered that she was playing a dangerous game, one where love and loyalty had a price tag. But no matter the version of the story, one thing was clear. Michelle had a way of making men open not just their hearts, but their wallets. Among them were three men, Kent Leppink, Scott Hilke, and John Carlin III, who all competed for her love and attention. She seemed to be living a dream, lavish trips, expensive gifts, and a string of men vying for her love. At one point, three different men believed they were Michelle's fiancé. She even shared home with two of them at the time, though whispers claimed it was never the same pair. Some say she was juggling a love triangle, while others insist it was more like a love hexagon. But beneath the glamour and allure, tensions were quietly building, and the life she had so carefully crafted was on the verge of unraveling. Behind the glitz, there were tensions who actually waited to be completely out in the open. These tensions were brewing. At this moment, to truly understand the web of manipulation and tragedy in this case, we need to look at the men drawn into Michelle's world. Each of them a devoted fiancé, a wealthy admirer, and a man willing to kill played a role in this twisted story. Who were they and how did they fall under her spell? Let's start at the beginning. We start with Kent Leppink, a former commercial fisherman from Michigan who had come to Alaska seeking adventure and love. Born 22 of March 1971, Kent was lonely and eager to settle down. He was captivated by Michelle's charm, showering her with gifts and even naming her as the beneficiary of his $1 million life insurance policy. But Kent's past wasn't as simple as it seemed. Rumors swirled that he had embezzled money from his own family, leaving behind a fractured relationship and a desperate need for a fresh start. In Alaska, he hoped to find peace, maybe even redemption. But instead, he found Michelle. Then there was John Carlin III, an older, financially stable man who was believed he had a special place in Michelle's life, unaware that others had been fed the same illusion. His teenage son, John Carlin IV, grew up in his father's shadow, but soon found himself entangled in something far darker. And then there was Colt Hilke, Michelle's former fiancé, who had once believed he was building a future with her, only to be left behind like so many others. Each of these men thought they were different, that Michelle truly cared for them. But in this tangled web of love, deception, and deadly consequences, not all of them would survive. On a cold May day in 1996, Kent Leppink's body was discovered on a remote trail near Hope, Alaska. He had been shot multiple times at close range, execution style, left abandoned in the wilderness. The murder weapon, a 44 caliber handgun, would later be linked back to John Carlin III, one of the men hopelessly entangled in Mechele Linehan's world. At first, investigators had little to go on, but as they dug deeper, forensic evidence, a chilling paper trail, and a cryptic letter from Kent himself began to unravel a deadly plot. Gunshot residue and ballistic tests tied the weapon to Carlin, while Kent's final note to his parents, written just days before his murder, named the very people he feared would kill him. The pieces of the puzzle were coming together, revealing a crime fueled by jealousy, betrayal, and a love triangle that turned fatal. At first, Kent Leppink's murder seemed like a mystery with no clear answers. There were no witnesses, no cameras, and the crime scene itself offered few immediate clues. But investigators soon discovered something chilling. Just before his death, Kent had written a letter to his parents, warning them that if anything happened to him, Mechele Linehan, John Carlin III, would be responsible. It was a desperate plea, almost as if Kent had sensed his own fate coming in. But without hard evidence linking anyone to the crime, the case went cold. Mechele left Alaska behind, reinventing herself as a suburban wife and mother, while John Carlin III carried on with his life as if nothing had happened. For nearly a decade, it seemed like they had gotten away with murder. After Kent Leppink's murder, Mechele left Alaska behind and started a new life, far from the shadows of her past. She settled in Washington, where she reinvented herself, trading the world of strip clubs and scandal for a quiet suburban existence. She pursued an education, built a career, and eventually married a respected physician, embracing the role of a wife and mother. To those who knew her in Washington, she was nothing more than a loving mom and a woman dedicated to her family. The name Mechele Linehan carried no weight, just another neighbor, another parent at school functions. But behind this picturesque life, the ghosts of Alaska still lingered, waiting for the day when the past would finally catch up to her. In 2004, new forensic advancements and a fresh set of eyes on the case changed everything. Detectives revisited the ballistic evidence and confirmed that the 44 caliber handgun used to kill Kent belonged to John Carlin III. PIP phone records and witnesses' statements painted a disturbing picture. Kent had been lured away under false pretenses, walking straight into his own execution. The most damning piece of evidence, however, was the money trail. Mechele, once the beneficiary of Kent's life insurance policy, had everything to gain from his death. Armed with this new evidence, authorities moved in. John Carlin III was arrested first, and in 2006, Mechele Linehan, now living a completely new life in Washington, was taken into custody, accused of masterminding the murder. The femme fatale's carefully crafted world was finally beginning to crumble. When Mechele Linehan and John Carlin III finally stood trial, it felt like the climax of a twisted crime novel. Prosecutors painted Mechele as a modern-day femme fatale, a woman who used her beauty and charm to manipulate men into doing her bidding. They argued that she orchestrated Kent Leppink's murder, convincing John Carlin to pull the trigger while she reaped the benefits. The prosecution laid out a damning case. The life insurance policy, the jealousy-fueled love triangle, and Kent's eerie letter predicting his own murder. Meanwhile, Michelle's defense fought back hard, portraying her as a woman who had simply moved on from a troubled past, unfairly blamed for a crime she didn't commit. But the prosecution had one final weapon: Kent's letter from beyond the grave, pointing directly at Michelle and John. The jury was captivated, torn between the image of a loving wife and a mother and the cold-hearted manipulator that state claimed she was. In 2007, after weeks of testimony and deliberation, the verdict came down. John Carling III was convicted of Kent's murder, and soon after, Mechele Linehan was found guilty at first-degree murder and conspiracy. The once respected wife and mother was sentenced to 99 years in prison, a dramatic fall from grace for the woman who had once dreamed of a fairy tale life. But just when it seemed like justice had been served, the case took another shocking twist. In 2008, Carlin was beaten to death in prison, taking his secrets to the grave. Then, in a stunning reversal, Michelle's conviction was overturned on appeal due to improper evidence presented in court. After years of legal battles, she walked free in 2010, leaving behind a case that still sparks debate. Was she a cunning mastermind or just another pawn in a deadly game? Let me know your opinion. I'm curious to discuss it. In the end, the full truth may never be known. Who was Mechele Linehan? That's a good question. Let's analyze in detail to understand her motives. Mechele Linehan was a woman who would transform herself to fit any situation, a chameleon moving effortlessly between worlds. Born in Louisiana and raised in a strict religious household, she seemed destined for a conventional life. But beneath the surface, there was always an air of quiet ambition. By the early 20s, she had reinvented herself, trading small-town life for the neon glow of Anchorage strip clubs, where she worked as an exotic dancer. Men were drawn to her, that's clear. She was beautiful, intelligent, and most of all, persuasive. Michelle didn't just attract admirers, she made them believe they were special, that they had won her heart. What made Mechele Linehan so compelling and so dangerous, you might ask? Probably it was her ability to shape herself into whatever her audience wanted her to be. Despite the psychological intrigue surrounding this case, she was never fully diagnosed with any mental illness by professionals in a courtroom setting. There was no evaluation labeling her a sociopath, no forensic psychologist testifying that she lacked empathy. Instead, the prosecution relied on her action, her patterns of manipulation, and the way she seemed to play the men in her life, like chess pieces. But even without an official diagnosis, the signs were hard to ignore. Her ability to captivate, her effortless charm, and the way she discarded people once they were no longer useful are clear indications of all these traits. Speculation about Michelle's personality has ranged from theories of narcissistic personality disorder to psychopathy. Some experts believe she exhibited traits of a classic femme fatale, calculating, self-serving, and willing to let others do her dirty work. Her relationship followed a pattern of control, where she wielded emotional power over men who adored her, keeping them competing for her attention. But was she truly a mastermind, or simply someone who learned how to survive in a world where power and persuasion could mean the difference between comfort and struggle? The answer remains elusive, but one thing is certain. Mechele Linehan understood human nature better than most, and she used the knowledge to her advantage, no matter the cost. For years, Mechele Linehan lived the perfect suburban dream, or at least that's how it seemed. After leaving Alaska, she married a respected doctor, had a daughter, and built a life that looked straight out of a magazine. She was the PTA mom, the friendly neighbor, the woman who hosted dinner parties with a warm smile and effortless charm. To anyone who met her, she was a devoted wife and mother, a far cry from the woman who once danced under the neon lights of Anchorage strip clubs. But beneath the polished exterior, shadows of her past lurked, waiting to surface. When authorities finally came knocking, dragging her back to face charges of murder, it was as if two completely different lives have collided. One built on appearances, the other on secrets too dark to stay buried. Her arrest shattered the illusion of the perfect life, leaving those who knew her in disbelief. How could this loving mother, this charming wife, be accused of orchestrating a cold-blooded murder? The truth, or at least the version presented in the court, painted her as a woman who had always known how to shape the world to her liking. Was she a reformed woman who had left her past behind, or had she simply traded one stage for another, playing the role of suburban perfection as convincingly as she once played the seductress? Mechele Linehan's story isn't just one of crime, it's one of transformation, deception, and the question of whether anyone ever truly changes. The story of Mechele Linehan is one that leaves us with chilling lessons about the power of manipulation, the masks we wear, and how easily we can be deceived by appearances. It's a reminder that people are often far more complex than they seem at first glance. What's on the surface isn't always the truth beneath. Michelle's ability to charm and control the men in her life speaks to the darker sides of human nature. How some individuals can prey on vulnerability, weaving lies so convincingly that even the most well meaning people fall for them. Her case underscores a psychological reality. The human desire for connection, love, and validation can sometimes cloud our judgment and make us blind to the dangers right in front of us. From a psychological perspective, Michelle's behavior raises questions about the lengths to which some individuals will go to craft the perfect image or life, regardless of the cost. Her ability to manipulate and deceive suggests a deep understanding of human emotions and weaknesses, a trait that can be both powerful and destructive. The takeaway here is simple. Trust is vital, but so is the ability to question those who claim to be everything we want them to be. Mechele Linehan's case reminds us that beneath the charm, there may be a hidden agenda, and it's up to us to look beyond the surface, because sometimes the most dangerous people are the ones who seem the most perfect. Today, Mechele Linehan lives far away from the spotlight, but her case continues to spark debates about justice, the power of perception, and how society judges women. Once painted as a modern-day femme fatale, her conviction was overturned, raising questions about how courts handle circumstantial evidence, especially when it involves women who didn't fit traditional molds. Some see her as a cautionary tale, a woman whose past was used against her in ways might not have been for a man. Others believe she escaped justice entirely. Regardless, her story often a mark on the judicial system, challenging how juries interpret motive, manipulation, and gender bias in high-profile cases. Even now, her name resurfaces in discussions about wrongful convictions and how women, especially those who break social norms, are judged in the eyes of the laws. Thank you very much for watching and being here with me. I wish you to take care of yourself first, and thank you for considering subscribing. You are the ones who encourage me and give me feedback and help me improve, and I thank you very much and I appreciate you. Bye.